Beneath the streets of the Roman Empire, far away from public temples and open-air sacrifices, small groups of men gathered in dim underground chambers. They were not attending an ordinary civic ritual. They were entering a secretive religious world centered on a god named Mithras. To outsiders, Mithraism must have seemed difficult to read: private meetings, symbolic artwork, ranked initiations, shared meals, and temples built to resemble caves. Unlike the great public cults of Rome, this was a religion of insiders. Its followers called themselves people united by a handshake, suggesting loyalty, fraternity, and a bond formed through initiation. For several centuries, Mithraism spread across the Western Roman Empire and became especially popular among soldiers, officials, and mobile imperial communities. Yet today, it remains one of the most puzzling religions of antiquity, because almost everything we know comes not from its own scriptures, but from stones, shrines, inscriptions, and images left behind. The god Mithras did not appear from nowhere. His name is connected to the older Iranian divinity Mithra, a figure associated in the wider Persian and Zoroastrian world with ideas such as contracts, order, and sacred obligation. But Roman Mithras was not simply a Persian god copied into Latin culture. By the time Mithraism became visible in the Roman Empire, it had developed a distinctive identity, with imagery and ritual forms that do not neatly match known Iranian practice. This is why scholars are cautious. Mithraism was clearly inspired by Eastern religious traditions, but the exact line between Persian influence and Roman reinvention remains debated. What emerged in the empire was a new mystery religion, one that used exotic associations, cosmic symbolism, and controlled initiation to create a powerful sense of hidden knowledge. Roman Mithras was therefore both familiar and foreign, ancient-sounding and newly shaped for an imperial world. Mithraism flourished mainly between the 1st and 4th centuries AD, during the high point of Roman imperial power. Its spread followed the routes of the empire itself: military roads, frontier forts, trading cities, administrative centers, and garrison towns. Evidence has been found from Roman Britain in the north to Roman Africa and Numidia in the south, and from the city of Rome to Dacia and parts of the eastern provinces. The cult seems to have been strongest in the western half of the empire, and especially in places linked to the army. This matters because Roman soldiers lived in a world of hierarchy, discipline, danger, and brotherhood. A religion built around initiation, loyalty, rank, and shared ritual meals would have fit naturally into that environment. Mithraism did not need mass public ceremonies to spread. It could travel with units, officials, merchants, and veterans, establishing small communities wherever imperial networks carried them. The places where Mithraists worshipped were called Mithraea, singular Mithraeum. These were often underground or designed to feel like caves, even when built inside ordinary urban spaces. The cave-like setting was not just architectural atmosphere. It seems to have been central to the religion's symbolic world. A Mithraeum was usually narrow and enclosed, with benches along the sides where initiates could recline or sit during communal meals. At the far end, there was often an image of Mithras performing the cult's central act, killing a bull. The space was intimate rather than monumental. A large public temple was built to impress the city. A Mithraeum was built to transform the participant. By entering below ground, the initiate stepped out of ordinary Roman life and into a staged sacred cosmos, a controlled environment where symbols, rank, darkness, and ritual could shape religious experience. Mithraism was a mystery religion, which means its deepest meanings were reserved for initiates rather than openly taught to the public. Worshippers passed through a system of 7 grades of initiation. The details of these grades are still difficult to reconstruct, but the structure itself tells us something important. Mithraism was not only about belief, it was about progression. A follower did not simply attend and listen. He advanced through levels, received status inside the group, and probably participated in rituals that marked each stage. This kind of graded initiation created a strong internal hierarchy. It also made the religion feel exclusive. Knowledge was not given all at once. It was earned, revealed, or dramatized step by step. In a Roman world already organized by status, rank, patronage, and military command, Mithraism offered a parallel sacred ladder, one that made spiritual belonging feel disciplined and consequential. One of the most striking things about Mithraism is that its followers described themselves as syndexioi, meaning those united by the handshake. That phrase gives a rare glimpse into how the community understood itself. The handshake suggests trust, recognition, agreement, and mutual obligation. It may also reflect the social world in which the cult was popular, men serving together, traveling together, or depending on one another in imperial institutions. Mithraic worship included communal meals, which likely reinforced this bond. Eating together in a sacred setting can turn a group into a brotherhood. It marks who belongs and who does not. Since the religion left no surviving theological manual, these social clues matter. Mithraism may have promised cosmic meaning, but it also offered something immediate and human, a closed circle of comrades, bound by ritual, secrecy, rank, and repeated shared experience. The most famous image in Mithraism is the tauroctony, the scene of Mithras killing a bull. Hundreds of examples survive, showing Mithras in a dramatic pose, often wearing Eastern-style clothing and a cap, turning his head away as he plunges a blade into the animal. Around the scene appear other figures and symbols, often including a dog, a snake, a scorpion, a raven, and the sun and moon. To modern viewers, the image is vivid but not self-explanatory. Was it a mythic sacrifice? A cosmic diagram? A symbol of fertility, death, renewal, or celestial order? Scholars continue to debate its meaning. What is clear is that this image was central enough to be repeated across the empire. In Mithraea, it stood at the visual and ritual focus of the room, giving initiates a shared sacred scene around which their religious imagination could gather. Mithras also appears in other key scenes, being born from a rock, and sharing a banquet with Sol, the sun god. The rock birth is strange and powerful. It suggests that Mithras emerges not through ordinary human lineage, but directly from the material structure of the world itself. He is a god of sudden appearance, force, and cosmic origin. The banquet with Sol adds another layer. It presents Mithras not as an isolated deity, but as a figure connected with the sun and perhaps with the order of the heavens. Together, these images make Mithraism feel intensely symbolic. The religion may have offered initiates a way to understand the universe as structured, meaningful, and accessible through ritual. But because no Mithraic scripture survives, we cannot simply translate the images into doctrine. We are left with a visual language whose grammar is only partly recoverable. Modern knowledge of Mithraism depends heavily on archaeology. Around 420 sites have produced Mithraic material. Archaeologists have found temples, altars, inscriptions, reliefs, statues, and ritual objects. There are roughly 1,000 inscriptions, about 700 examples of the bull-killing scene, and hundreds of other monuments. The city of Rome alone may once have had at least 680 Mithraea, though not all survive or have been identified. This scale shows that Mithraism was not a tiny curiosity. It was a significant religious movement embedded in imperial life. But the evidence is uneven. Stones tell us names, dedications, ranks, and images, but they rarely explain theology in full sentences. Archaeology gives us the skeleton of the religion, where it existed, who supported it, what spaces it used, what symbols it repeated. The inner voice of the cult is mostly missing. This missing voice is the central challenge in understanding Mithraism. Unlike Christianity, Judaism, or many philosophical schools of the ancient world, Mithraism left no surviving body of sacred writings. There is no Mithraic gospel, no official mythbook, no preserved instruction manual for initiates. What we have instead are brief references by outsiders and a vast but silent material record. That makes interpretation difficult and sometimes controversial. One scholar may see astronomical symbolism in the tauroctony, another may emphasize sacrifice, initiation, or imperial social networks. Some older theories imagined Mithraism as a direct rival or close cousin of Christianity, while newer approaches are more careful about what the evidence can prove. The result is a religion that feels both well-attested and elusive. We can walk into its temples, count its inscriptions, and study its icons, yet still not fully hear what initiates believed they were experiencing. Mithraism is often described as a rival of early Christianity, and the comparison is understandable. Both religions expanded during the Roman imperial period. Both created committed communities. Both used ritual meals and powerful ideas of salvation, loyalty, and transformation. Both also operated, at different moments, outside the older public framework of Roman civic religion. But the rivalry should not be oversimplified. Christianity developed scriptures, public teaching, bishops, and increasingly broad social membership. Mithraism remained more restricted, more private, and apparently more male-dominated, with strong ties to soldiers and officials. It did not become a universal church. Still, in the religious marketplace of the empire, Mithraism represented one serious option among many for people seeking meaning beyond traditional civic cults. Its existence reminds us that early Christianity rose in a crowded spiritual world, not in an empty space. By the 4th century, the world that had allowed Mithraism to thrive was changing. Christianity gained imperial support and then increasing dominance. Traditional cults and rival religious practices faced pressure, restriction, and sometimes direct persecution. Mithraists, like other non-Christian groups, were eventually targeted, and the cult was suppressed within the Roman Empire. By the end of the 4th century, Mithraism had effectively disappeared as a living religion. Its underground temples were abandoned, destroyed, reused, or buried. Yet the religion did not vanish completely. It survived as a historical puzzle, preserved in stone beneath later cities and in reliefs pulled from the earth centuries afterward. Mithraism's legacy is not a continuous tradition, but a mystery reconstructed from fragments, a secret of brotherhood, a god born from rock, a bull slain in cosmic drama, and a vanished world beneath Rome's feet. If you found this helpful, please like this video and subscribe for more explainers.